Hello, Brian. Sound check, can you hear me? Thank you very much.
All right, here we go. Let's begin the meeting. Let's see. So I'm calling the meeting to order, and I'll ask the secretary to call the roll, please.
Director Curry? Present. Director Robinson? Present. Director Sorrell is absent. Chair Garza?
Present.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. Okay, so the next regular meeting of the Human Resources Committee is scheduled for Thursday, August 15th at 2024 at noon. And I don't believe we have anybody participating remotely. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so then I'll ask if anyone is registered to provide in-person or virtual oral testimony or submitted written testimony to be included into the record today.
We did not receive any registrations, nor did we receive any written testimony.
Okay, so we'll go right to item 3 on the agenda, and that is a report from our Interim Chief Human Resources Officer, Carrie. Carrie, I'll turn it over to you. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Hi, good afternoon.
Okay, so this is our 2024 strategic plan in HR, taking the strategic pillars of our CCH strategic plan and honing in and focusing our efforts a little bit more succinctly to ensure that we are making headway on our goals for the year. So we start with, and so there are 3 main goals. There's focusing on talent acquisition, focusing on our increased retention, and then of course ensuring that our stakeholders to HR, which is our leaders, managers, and other stakeholders, are comfortable with their advanced performance management techniques. So those are the main ones. But under talent acquisition, we are going to be reviewing our hiring policies specifically. We are working with our quality team on some of them as we speak, and are mapping them out. The ones that have already been mapped, we're diving into those areas where we are seeing some resistance to moving quickly or efficiently, and working on those areas specifically. We're also rebuilding our workforce development team that is going to work on additional pipelines. We started working on one particular emergency response technician pipeline last year, and plan to utilize that framework to incorporate additional pipelines in the future. Continuing our technology improvements, of course, increasing or holding steady on our job fairs, and because we've had a lot of success with those over the last 2 years. And then we are working in Comp and Class on our job description architecture to ensure that we are maintaining and staying abreast of all of the equity and access revisions and implementation strategies that are out there in the market, to ensure that we are continuing to have a highly diverse workforce and improve access that will allow us to increase our vacancy fill. For retention, we're continuing to do our onboarding process revisions. We can never be finished with that. And then team building. So as I will talk about later slides, we've looked at a lot of our exit data, and team building or team efficiency or management resources have been the big theme of our exit surveys for when people are leaving, whether it was through retirement or resignation. And so we are working on those, and we're building out some learning education modules, some conflict resolution modules, and both in-person, virtual, and paper learning format to meet the needs of everybody in the organization to increase that retention. And then, of course, we're also partnering with our Chief Experience Officer on employee recognition programs. And then finally, focusing on advanced performance management, changing our performance management model to a one-to-one conversation model. We've been piloting a program over the last year with that with a couple of our larger departments, and we are working on converting that to the entire organization. We've seen a lot of success, and we've gotten a lot of good feedback through the direct surveys with the participants, both management and non-management in those pilots. Going through our policy revisions and evaluations, ensuring that everybody is in line with how the policies currently exist, but then making them more efficient and user-friendly as well. And then benchmarking performance, which is really key to ensuring that management and staff alike are on the same page and working towards the goal of improving that patient care, patient outcomes, membership service, as well as our customer service with all of our stakeholders. Next slide. So as promised, some employee exit survey findings. So we don't have a statistically significant number of surveys, a lot more than we've had in the past, and so that is statistically significant. However, right now we're hovering at around 120 to 130 surveys thus far this year, so in the last 5 months. And so that is the data that you see before that we've generated and tried to capture the big highlights from those surveys. So retention, reasons for leaving. The continuing highest reason for leaving is just retirement. People who've reached that retirement age, whether they stayed a little bit longer through COVID or it's simply just that time for them that they had always planned on. Retirement incorporates a majority of our reasons for leaving for the people who were filling out these surveys. Family or personal reasons is also a very high number with this group, and then there were some that were related to career progression as well as people feeling that their manager or their team were the concern. Our turnover, 23% of employees leaving worked for less than 2 years. And so that is a number that we are continuing to dive into and make sure that we are addressing the needs of that onboarding programming to ensure that that retention number does go up and this turnover rate goes down. However, 40% of those employees that have left are at that retirement age. They've been here for 20 plus years, so their retention, we were able to keep, and we are going to learn from them as well, and that's why their exit surveys are very important to us as well. Teams, so we've had an indication that we've had strong teams, and historically that has been a problem in our surveys. A lot of people identified through the surveys that they did not have a positive experience with their teams, whereas right now 77% of our exit surveys show that those employees did have positive experiences. And in large part, that is due to a lot of the new programming that has gone into effect over the course of the last 12 months. And as a matter of fact, improving manager relations, we've had an 8% increase from last year to this year alone in those exit survey data, showing that they've had that positive team experience. So the new programming that has been put in place is showing us in the numbers now. We've always got room to improve though. So in the middle, you can see under teaming, 33% of employees did not have a positive experience with their teams and indicated that that was why they were leaving. So we will continue to try to drive at that and ensure that those numbers continue to go down. And then for the managers specifically who filled out their surveys, 79% of managers recommended CCH as a good place to work. However, that's 21% that did not. And so we are working with them, and we are working with the data they provided during their exit surveys to ensure that we are getting that leadership training, the leadership support, as well as conflict resolution support, because those leadership training and conflict resolution were the two big identifiers from management about their concerns with recommending CCH, and we will continue to develop those programs.
May I ask a question?
Of course.
First of all, excellent layout. Can follow you completely. Information is spot on. I just want to compliment you because this is fantastic. I just think it's great. So the question I have, the 33% room for improvement, does that correspond to my manager?
Oh, the manager experience?
Right, and you may not know it. I'm just looking at it, and that's what I'm wondering, because what I'm looking for is what are the levers that we actually can actually impact? The people who are retiring, you can have a little bit, maybe not. But the other categories, I'm wondering if there are things in there that can impact it, because what my thought is, if we can slow down that progression in those categories, family, personal reasons, because there may be ways you can come up with different type of scheduling that may actually allow you to do it. And that, again, trying to dig out of the big hole that we're in. To slow it down and to continue to, so we can get it further ahead on our net positive, that's where I'm looking, and I see 33% room for improvement. If we get that information, can we make adjustments that people will want to stay with us longer?
I believe so, and I'm looking at some of my notes here, and it looks like there is crossover from the managers needing support and this room to improve 33%, or from all staff, in that conflict resolution happens to be one of the #1 areas from both of those data points. So
here's a question. I see, and you may not have it, but that's fine, but with the 79%, you mentioned the 21%, so do we see some of the managers that are actually leaving as well, as because the thought is that you have the middle people that are leaving faster, and I see you got 23% less than 2 years, but we do have approximately around 37% that's somewhere not accounted for.
So yeah, you're right. I don't have all of that data, but in that 21%, we have managers and leaders that are leaving. A lot of them due to retirement. A lot of those are from retirement, so we would expect that they would be leaving. And again, because we were able to retain them for as long as we have in most cases, we are looking to really learn from their exit surveys. And so we changed our survey to ask much more specific and actionable questions so that we can do this, that, and change our programming accordingly.
Okay, thank you. Again, well structured.
You're welcome. No other questions? We're going to metrics. All right, so this first slide is our vacancy activity report, and this is a metric we used to present on in the board meetings prior to COVID and at the very early stages of COVID, but then other things occupied everybody's focus. But we're bringing it back based on our conversations we've had over the last couple of board meetings. So as you can see, in FY24, we have for Q1, as of Q2, we had 1,800 vacancies as of the date this report was pulled on April 30th in the organization in our budgeted positions, and almost 1,400 of them are being worked in HR, and that is a significantly large number of vacancies to work at one time for the team, even though we have received some staff augmentation from contracted agencies. The graph on the far right shows where in progress those 1,400 vacancies and requisitions currently are in process. As you can see, a large number of them are, about a third of them, not a third, that's the wrong number. A large number of them are posted, but then an even larger percentage of them are currently actively with the departments in the interviews and selection processes. So we would expect these numbers to waterfall through the process from month to month as we report on this data. And so I would expect that the decisions to hire, which currently there are over 350 packets in the decision to hire phase, that some of them will go into the offer accepted phase, some of them will go into the repost phase, and that'll be for various reasons, but we'll see that graph on the right shift variably from month to month as they move their way through the processes. Any questions about this?
Just for baseline information, I should have this at I don't.
Sure.
What are the total number of budgeted positions or approved positions?
I do not have the total number of, I can give you an estimate, and it's around 7,300, give or take.
So am I correct if I'm looking at the second quarter vacant positions at 1819?
Yep.
Measuring that against the total, the estimate you gave gives me the sense of what the gap is right now.
Other question is on the graph to the right, and I may be wrong in this because I'm not exactly sure, but if I recall correctly, in a previous meeting, there's somewhere here in the middle, I don't know if it's in the validation in process or the interviewing, where it seems to slow down, or is it after we decide? I'm trying to find out where's that. There's a point where it seems like we lose people because we're taking too long.
So that happens at various stages depending on the type of position it is. It can be in the screening process. Many of our positions are union positions, so when we initially post, we will post for internal and external candidates simultaneously to get an applicant pool, but we have to review and assess those internal applicants that belong to that particular collective bargaining agreement first. And so that's the first stage where we may lose interest from candidates who are external to the organization because we have to go through our internal processes first. And then once we get through that hurdle and the people who've stuck with us, that second place, which is the gap right now that we're working with our quality team on how to make it more efficient, is once the decision to hire has been made, the various steps that have to happen between that, us and downtown Cook County proper, before we can actually begin onboarding that individual, there's a delay there as well. And that's the bottleneck right now that we are focusing on, because that's the one we feel that we will be able to control the efficiencies most effectively.
Okay, here's the thought. If you can look at your historical data and say how many people internally typically you do hire, and how many people externally you typically hire. If you look at those numbers, it may give you an opportunity not to slow down on the external hires and lose people that way, because you're not going to hire everybody internally. But so if you've got a good number that you can trust, then that'll allow you to put forth your higher level of external people, so you don't lose them because of the delay. You keep it moving. Does that make sense?
Yes, that does.
So that gives you a good number to work with, and that's just a thought that it might actually help the process of not losing good people, because anyone who does any hiring, you hate to lose good people because it's so tough to get them through the process to find out that they're good and you want them and they like you. So maybe, just maybe.
Noted. Absolutely. Okay. Next slide. You've all seen this one before. So we have filled, as of April 30th, 439 positions. 302 of those were external, with a net new gain of 100 as of April 30th. It's a 68% offer acceptance ratio, and that number has held steady over the last couple of months. Obviously, we want it to improve, but at least it is not going down. And we did have some temporary hiring freezes with our nursing positions related to a job classification change process that we were going through, and so we actually did expect that offer acceptance rate to go down a little bit, and it did not because of those extra delays, and so we are very pleased that that number's maintained. Okay, next slide. This just shows you pre-COVID through current state what our net new hires have done, and as you know, during COVID they dipped substantially, leading to in 2023 some monumental efforts to ensure that we completely reverse that trend, and we are just under pace by a few positions on our net new hires as of 2024. So we're really pleased with that as well. This shows our separation data. So we are continuing to trend down on our turnovers, and thus increasing our retention. Retirements are lower, which is great compared to 2022 and 2023, but it is in the resignation area, that graph in the middle on the far right, which shows you where the most of our improvements have come. And those resignations are a fraction of what they were in 2022, which was the end of the, towards that end of the Great Resignation timeframe. And so a lot of the efforts that we have put in as an organization for retention, around retention, as well as what's happening in the market, shows that that is indeed going to be helping us in our numbers, not only in ensuring that we don't have more vacancies continually added to that queue that our talent acquisition team has to process, but also that we are retaining all of the efforts of training and getting individuals to give that best patient care and staying to ensure that we're not risking that patient care, that membership service, so that we can continue that high level of service moving forward.
Yeah, I see retirements are down. Does that mean that we have fewer people retiring, or we have a younger workforce?
We have not crested that wave yet on we have a younger workforce, but the retirements are down and we'll take it. Okay, next slide. This is, the next couple of slides are about our accelerated nurse hiring program. Nursing is a large number of our positions in the organization in total, as well as a number of our vacancies. So we are tracking this carefully, and we had created this accelerated hiring program for them to try to get that gap even further closed. So as of April 30th, we had extended offers to 459 candidates for positions in nursing. These are the clinical nurse 1 positions specifically, and 251 had been accepted. The acceptance rate is 57%, and I'm going to dive into on the next slide a little bit more about the declinations that we are getting through this program, or for nursing in general. Our time to fill is 89 days for nursing. With this program, we did see it get down as far as into the 70s. There was a period of time where we were pivoting from the initial pilot phase to this new pilot phase we are in, as well as that 2.5, almost 3 weeks temporary hiring freeze on our CN1 positions during that position reclassification process. So those things added to an increased time to fill currently, but we have been making ground on those offers. We've extended all of those previous offers that were on hold, and so we anticipate that time to fill will go back down over the course of the next 2 months. Now, if we want to go to the next slide.
I'd like to just go on the record. I was looking at the definition reasons. So 75% of the reasons people decline are not, according to this, are not related to salary or schedule issues.
Next slide.
I mean, which is asking your thoughts. I'd like to point that out. I wanted to see where that was concentrated. Thank you.
Yes, no, definitely. So Dr. Curry is talking about that graph on the far right, the offers declination, where we broke down the reasons people decline their offers. Now, what is shown here is actually 60% of the candidate declines. These are the people who indicated that they were declining and why they were declining, or that 21% where they were just non-responsive. What the graph doesn't show is 40% of the people who declined offers just never gave a reason at all in any way, shape, or form. And that's actually pretty common. Year over year, that's nothing new to, recent trends. But as Dr. Curry was saying, no longer interested shift schedule is one of our higher declining. And a lot of the people who are getting the offers for these positions are actually getting multiple offers because they've applied to multiple positions to which they're qualified to apply. And so they're selecting one position over a number. And so those are reflected in these as well. The graph on the far left, however, takes that activity report, which is on the slide we just looked at, and divides it into FY24 and FY23. FY23 was that initial pilot phase, and it did bleed into the first couple of months of FY24. And then most recently, starting at the end of February, beginning of March, is when we reactivated the pilot and started going into the accelerated process for nursing, and then expanding it beyond just the clinical nurse 1 role as well. And so these are the numbers associated with our offers accepted, filled, and declined.
Can you explain it to me? I don't think I quite understand. Officers accepted versus filled all? I don't quite understand what that means.
So the offers accepted is generally going to be higher than the ones we've filled because there's a gap between when they accept their offer and when they actually are oriented and onboard into the system.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions on that? Okay. This last slide shows you a breakdown by affiliate of the positions in nursing that are utilizing the accelerated nurse hiring process at the time, vacant versus filled. Vacant positions are the dark navy. That's the far graph on the left. So as you can see, ACHN, CERMEC, and JTDC, all of the positions they had identified to go through this process had been filled. And then Provident and Stroger are the ones that have remaining vacancies that are going through this process. The graph on the right identifies the 3 different processes that nursing can utilize for any particular vacancy that they have in their department. The accelerated nurse hiring pilot is on the left of that graph. The hiring fairs And then we've got the actively recruited process, which is how all internal applicants have to go through the process first, and then we can shift PIDs from that actively recruited process into either hiring fair or accelerated nurse process, depending on the type of role and whether we can fill it with an internal candidate or not. As this graph, I think, is great because it really shows the success of the accelerated hiring program and that its effectiveness has far outpaced both the other hiring processes. And although both of those processes that have not been as successful in filling the vacancies quickly are very useful to us, it does show that that accelerated hiring process really has been very effective. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Carrie. Any other questions or comments?
No other questions, thank you.
I would like to reiterate, I think this is laid out very nicely. I mean, extremely well put together. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for the feedback, Sam. Carrie, thank you. Appreciate your report. We'll move on to item 4A, minutes of the Human Resources Committee meeting that occurred on February 15th, 2024. These were approved by the board at the February meeting, but are being presented for the committee's review and discussion if necessary. Let's see, are there any corrections that need to be made to the minutes? Okay, hearing none, I'd like to entertain a motion to accept item 4A, the February 15, 2024 committee meeting minutes.
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second?
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any discussion? All right, the motion carries. I don't believe there's a closed meeting session, so as the agenda is exhausted, I think it's okay to declare the meeting adjourned. So meeting is adjourned. Thank you.